before I pass the floor to the speaker. And we are using this opportunity to have in the chat the introductions. Please don't be shy. Use this opportunity. I can see that there are a lot of representatives of diplomatic missions connecting from Astana. Yes, and our guests. I can see Paul Salwan. I'm sorry, I don't know how to pronounce your last name, but welcome. Paul is a CFO of Jambul Cement. Excellent French VCAT group. Yes, we had a meeting with your GM. Great to have you. Welcome. Please do put this in your chat. And Paul, if you tell us, are you connecting actually from Jambul? Then this is even more tough than people connecting from Astana, I think. Welcome, we welcome everybody who is here. This is great to see you. My team put in the chat the social media links, how you can stay connected with Eurobac. Yes, Lalita Zakirova is Axisa. This is our source provider for the accounting for us, for Eurobac. And Lalita is a co-chairperson of tax committee of Eurobac. Welcome, Lalita. Everybody, please use this opportunity, and this is your company advertising chance. Basically, you don't give that too often. I can see that Ekaterina Benjamin from IFC is joining. I can see that there are a lot of people from the diplomatic community. I already mentioned hello. Ekaterina Kirill Kuleshov is here from German company Carher. Welcome. Right? I didn't mix that up. Yes, because there's a lot of information in my head, and I can put people in other companies, re-employ them with some other companies. All right, I can see that our people are connecting, and this is a wonderful opportunity to get together and talk about a very important topic. This is, and also having a special guest with us. We named this together. I think we had a great discussion with Klaus Zilikens. Klaus is a regional sanctions advisor, EU delegation based in Astana. And our topic this morning is EU sanctions, not a sprint, but a marathon. Unfortunately, but that is the case. Klaus is a German diplomat who has been working as a regional sanctions advisor at the EU delegation in Astana since January 2025. And today, Klaus will highlight the main elements of the EU sanctions regime against the Russian Federation, and he will also explain its impact on Kazakhstan and other Central Asian countries. You all know that the sanctions started back in 2014. Now it is already 12 years later. EU member states are discussing the 20th sanctions packages, which we are looking at being adopted very soon. And Klaus said, as being a former economic attaché at the German embassy in Astana, that he really knows firsthand that sanctions are an additional burden to EU companies and their business partners in the region. But for him, it is worth the effort. Sanctions do work. So let's have this discussion. The way that we are going to arrange it, you can type your questions in the chat, and I will go through the questions, and we will select the questions that Klaus will answer. If there are not that many questions, then we will try and answer most of them or all of them. If there will be some unanswered questions in the moment, it's not a worry. We can always record those questions. You can also email Eurobac Secretariat your questions, and we will pass it on to Klaus, and we are happy to organize series of this kind of events where Klaus will go through what is going on, do the updates, and so on. So thank you very much, everybody who wrote in the chat where you're from, where you're connecting. Welcome once again. We are really grateful to the delegation, EU delegation in Astana for the support, for giving us this opportunity to host this event. And I pass the floor to Klaus, please.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Julie, for these introductory remarks, and a warm welcome to everyone. It's a great pleasure for me to be able to talk a little bit about what Julie has called our marathon, our sanctions marathon. I think it's timely to do it in the framework of such an outreach to Eurobug, because a lot of things have happened recently in terms of sanctions. You may have read a lot about it. You may have been forced to deal with it in your day-to-day business. There is things also in the pipeline, the 20th package. And I think it's a good moment to reach out, explain a little bit where we are coming from with the sanctions, and where this marathon is going to lead us to. Eurobug, let me add this, also at the beginning, is a very important partner for us here at the EU delegation, and is simply a very important forum, I think, for European businesses, and also businesses from Kazakhstan and the region, and is always a very important interlocutor also for us and for the governments in the region. And this is an additional reason for me to reach out to you, because it's important that in a way you are able to, if possible, amplify our sanctions messages, but at least know the messages and the reasoning behind it. So let me start by explaining a little bit again where we are coming from with our sanctions against the Russian Federation. As Julie has said, it started 2014, many years ago, with the occupation of Crimea, and then later on with the events in eastern Ukraine, and then the whole sanctions issue became a focus issue of the European Union and of other countries like UK and US and other partners, when the Russian Federation started its war of aggression against Ukraine in 2022. And ever since, we have maintained or have been trying to maintain pressure on the Russian Federation through our sanctions packages. Now it's 19 packages, and I will come to what actually they comprise, what the logic is behind it in a minute. But let me say that that it's very important. We are sanctioning the Russian Federation for two reasons. First of all, this is about our international system, the UN Charter, and this is about the fact that we don't accept this war, which has not been provoked, against the territorial integrity, the independence of a European country. That is sort of where we are coming from, or one direction where we are coming from, and it's very important. So it's about our common international order, which we need to maintain. And the second is, this is about our security in Europe. This is about us also. It's about Ukraine, yes, but it's also about us Europeans. We feel threatened by this war, that needs to stop, and this is why we have decided to work against it and to engage against it, not least through the instruments which we have at our disposal in terms of sanctions. So what instruments is this? What instruments am I talking about? We are seeing sanctions and that is, I think, a very important issue for you doing business in Kazakhstan. We have a lot of goods which cannot be exported to Russia. It is about, let me say, it's about 5,000 goods. It depends on how detailed you look at the granularities of categories, but let's say it's about 5,000 goods, which must no longer be exported to the Russian Federation. We have also sanctions on the import into the European Union of Russian goods. That is mainly energy, but not only. We have fertilizers, we have other goods, we have wood products. So there is mainly exports to Russia, but there is also imports from Russia, which are sanctioned. We have, on top of that, listings, so-called listings, which is basically transaction bans, meaning European companies, entities, individuals may not enter into business with certain individuals or certain companies. In this category, what stands out is listings of financial institutions. We have a number of Russian banks being sanctioned. We have had asset freezes of Russian banks, freezes of their assets in the European Union. This is sort of instrument of listings of financial institutions is very important because SWIFT, you all know SWIFT is an institution which is operating from Brussels, from the European Union, and it's also bound by EU sanctions. So once a bank is listed and there is a transaction ban, it basically follows that SWIFT can no longer work with this financial institution. This is a very how can I say, important sanction, which has a lot of consequences for the financial institutions involved. So we have the goods, we have the financial institutions, we have the listings of individuals. That is basically our toolbox. And you can imagine that with the war going on and evolving, there is the need to adapt. There is a need to adapt our sanctions packages from time to time. Some portray our sort of additional and our ongoing sort of sanctions packages, the addition of one package to the other, as a weakness of our sanctions regime. I would say it's not a weakness. It simply shows that we need to adapt. We need to adapt. There is the necessity to do additional listings of individuals, of companies. There is the need to look at the reality of this terrible war. You all know about the drone warfare. You all know about the importance drone warfare has developed, has shown in this war. So we need to adapt also in terms of what goods we are sanctioning. And this brings me to a very important point. I've mentioned about 5,000 goods which we have mentioned, which we have sanctioned. But within this group of 5,000 goods, there is of roughly 5,000 goods, there is a group of 50 goods which we define in terms of 6-digit HS codes. For all of you which are familiar with WTO rules, this is the standard sort of definition rules of goods. 50 such goods we have picked out and identified as being very important in the war effort of Russia within Ukraine or against Ukraine. They are found on the battlefield or in the cities being attacked by the Russians, and we call them common high priority goods. We have agreement on this list of 50 goods with the UK and the US and with others. And when it comes to these goods, our standards, how can I say, or our efforts are particularly high. We want to avoid really that Russia gets hold of these goods. And here is where sanctions circumvention and third countries like Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, and other countries come into play. When I talk about sanctions circumvention, there is two sides of it. It's companies in Europe or in the US or UK which export these goods to actors, economic actors, countries, knowing that these goods may find its way to Russia. So it takes a company, it takes an exporter, it takes also then some company or some individuals in countries like Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, United Arab Emirates, China, to re-export these goods to Russia. That is, in our view, sanctions circumvention, and we want to bring this sanctions circumvention, if possible, down to zero. The complication is, or the situation is, as you all know, that the European Union is sanctioning Russia, not Kazakhstan, not China, not Kyrgyzstan. And we want to keep it that way. And we are also telling all the time our Kazakh and Kyrgyz and Chinese counterparts, we are not sanctioning you. We don't want to punish you, but what we expect is that you don't undercut our sanctions vis-a-vis Russia, because we have good reasons for our sanctions policy. And I've said it at the beginning. It's about the international order as we all support it, and it's about our European security. This is crucial for us, very important. And it's also important for our companies in Europe, for our economies. So please don't undercut our efforts when it comes to sanctioning. In terms of Kazakhstan, to be more concrete, we are looking and have been looking over the last years at the statistics, which showed that unfortunately there has been quite significant sanctions circumvention of these very important common high priority goods. That's very often electronics, that's radio equipment, but that's also, for example, a category which is quite important, CNC machine tools, so bigger equipment, but a lot of it is smaller equipment, electronic equipment, etc. We are looking at these, as I said, with specific interest and attention. And I can say as a result of our dialogue, as a result of our marathon here in Kazakhstan, we have seen positive results. The Kazakh government has step by step been able to adopt regulations, legislation that should allow the customs authorities here in Kazakhstan to really bring sanctions circumvention to zero. Realistically, it will never be 0, but really down to very low figures. And we are very grateful for the cooperation over the years with the Kazakh authorities. And Kazakhstan may become really a model in this regard, also for other jurisdictions, for other countries here in the region, particularly for Kyrgyzstan, where to say it frankly, we are not so happy until now. What we expect from the countries like Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan is that they stop or at least impede significantly the circumvention of our sanctions, the re-export. It's mainly about re-export of goods that must not go to Russia. They can go to Kyrgyzstan, they can go to Kazakhstan, but they should not go further. And this is, I think, also something which is very important for your, or at least some of your day-to-day business when you deal with goods that fall under sanctions, under the Russia sanctions. You are free to import them or to export them, depends on the perspective, to Kazakhstan. But please make sure, that is always my appeal to business actors, that these goods don't find their way to Russia. So that is our big appeal to companies in the region. And that is also, when it comes to European actors and European companies, that is an obligation you're having because you must not facilitate sanction circumvention. You are obliged to do due diligence. You have a responsibility to look at your partners and to make sure, in the framework of course, due diligence, that these critical goods don't reach Russia. So if you are in doubt about a trading partner, if you have suspicion about what will happen to these goods, my advice would always be, leave it. Don't do this specific kind of business, or think twice. Go back to your national, in Europe, export control agencies, ask them, ask your chambers of commerce, ask other business actors before you do something which may be regrettable and may be negative for your company also, because there is juridical consequences which are possible, but there is also, and I think that's more important, that there is reputational damage you may incur for your companies. No company in Europe wants to be seen, wants to be quoted in a newspaper as undercutting sanctions. I think no company wants that, and we all want to avoid it. So I think reputational damage is something you want to avoid, and we want to avoid it as well. Having said that, it's a marathon, so we are expecting the 20th package to be adopted soon. And to be honest with you, once it is adopted, the content is more or less clear. I cannot go into detail what is in there because we have this policy unless or before it is really adopted. It's very difficult to talk about what's in there. So there will be elements there will be elements also for, let's put it this way, countries in the region. But the important point is it is all measured, it's all well sort of calibrated, well thought through. We have evidence under sort of pinning every individual measure we are taking. It's not fantasy. It's really something which is a product of a long discussion back in Brussels, and I'm also involved in some of these discussions. When we have the 20th package, possibly adopted in, as Julia said, very soon, this month or next month, we will already start preparing the next package, and it will go on. The marathon will go on until hopefully soon, this war, this terrible war, and this threat to our common security will stop. But as long as this is not the case, we will go on, and we are encouraged. We are encouraged by the results we see. A lot of people say, look at what's happening. There are still goods being imported into Russia. They should not be imported. Russia is still earning money with oil, etc. Yes, it is a marathon. Therefore, you have to look at the statistics. We have managed to bring down oil revenues for Russia in a significant way, and we are going to go on and bring it down even further. We have been able to deprive Russia of a lot of electronic devices it might otherwise have used on the battlefield against innocent Ukrainians. It's a marathon. We have not sort of been able to close kind of Russian access to these goods completely. There is also other actors like China who don't have a no sanctions policy. We have to recognize this, but we have made it more difficult for the Russians and more costly, and that is a success. So please, yeah, that's our position, and I think it is a position which is really based on facts. If you could also amplify this. Sanctions do work, and since they work, and with this I would come to maybe the end of my introductory remarks. Since it works, it's also worth it for you to take the extra effort, because as Julia has said in the beginning, I know from first-hand experience that for companies, sanctions are a kind of nuisance. They are extra work. You have to do, as I've said, extra due diligence. You have to maybe consult with a with a lawyer, with authorities back home, with with the chambers of commerce. You have to get legal advice if it's really a tricky issue you're confronted with. All this is extra burden, all this is extra cost. Plus, you may find yourself in a situation in this region, for example, where you suddenly have to sort of recalibrate and redesign your logistics to a certain degree. And I know that some years ago, many companies had to reroute completely their logistics from Russia to the region. I think these processes have been concluded, but it is still an issue. Getting goods into Kazakhstan, which corridor to take, what can I do? Some goods are sanctioned, some goods are not sanctioned. All this is cumbersome. We recognize this, we know it, and we appreciate very much your cooperation in all this, but let me frame it like this. It is a common effort. We are in a team in this. We are together in this marathon, and it's worth it. I'm telling you, we do have success. It is not 100%, but it's worth it, and we make this war more difficult and more costly for the Russian Federation every day with every new sanctions package. So with this, I would like to stop. There is a lot of detail I could dwell on, um, uh, a lot of nitty-gritty, a lot of maybe important also specific points for you, but I think the best is if we now open the discussion, and Julie, you open maybe the floor, and then I can dwell on individual points in the last or in the next 30 minutes we have to respond, if possible, to your questions and comments. So thanks for your attention, and thank you, Julie, again for giving me the opportunity to make my points and to talk a little bit about our sanctions marathon. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. And we are now open to questions. You can raise your hand and open your microphone, speak out loud, or you can type your question in the chat and I can read it for you, but I'm sure that this is a rather safe space. I would suggest that we, for now, stop the translation, the transmission to the LinkedIn, and it will just, the discussion will stay here in the Zoom.